Problem: human activities are directly and indirectly destroying ecosystems throughout planet Earth. These actions continue despite humans' increasing awareness of the multi-layered problems they are creating. Sometimes I look at what people are doing to the world, and it feels to me as though there was some tremendous collective failure of people's empathy circuits. Pre-industrial life was clearly not perfect either, but the gap is profound. Why is it that we've unleashed such terrible destruction of Earth and other beings primarily in the last few hundred years? What if modern people could reconnect with the world around us? And wouldn't we really come to life too if we could consistently feel within ourselves the beauty and the magic of the greater than human world? Turns out there's a way of thinking, of being in the world, that can help us with that. And many people have lived this way for many thousands of years. Animism is a belief, but more than that, it means a seeing, a feeling, a sensing within ourselves that everything in the world around us is alive, and furthermore, that each of these other entities has its own divine spiritual essence. And really, if we stop to consider the intricate and beautiful ways that earthly life came into being and continues evolving all around us, well, then the rigid, disdainful dismissal of this viewpoint by modern science seems a little off, like it might be really missing the boat. Nurit Bird-David is a modern anthropologist who has explored hunter-gatherer cultures. Her work has revitalized academic thought and discussions about animism. For one example, Laura M. Rival from University of Kent, Canterbury, in responding to Bird-Davis's work, notices that Bird-David argues for a plurality of animisms. That is, just one approach does not fit everyone. This recognition of pluralism, one size does not fit all, this does not objectify or invalidate others' ways of being. In fact, pluralism even has roots back to one of America's founding philosophers and psychologists, Dr. William James. Stephen Porges, author of the polyvagal theory, is another major contributor to the awareness of how deeply and fundamentally important relationality is to human beings. His work focuses on the associated neural circuits and their vital importance in self-regulation, keeping us in balance physically and emotionally. For people living in this way, the academic recognition might be nice. How might you feel when others are analyzing something that's just a part of you and that you know deeply in your bones? Regardless, it can be argued that Western humans' tendency to dismiss the animistic way of life and its accompanying reverence for everything around us is a major contributor to the ongoing biospheric destruction. And so, in the spirit of animism, the following is one possible perspective from a being who inhabits the greater than human world. I can't speak for this tree that you're about to meet. That would be presumptuous. So we won't be speaking from the first person here. But we can imagine what it might be like to be this tree, using just a little poetic license. Perhaps thinking in this way might help us humans begin to bridge this terrible gap between us and the rest of the biosphere. I encourage you as you watch and listen to this to stretch your imagination and try placing yourself in this being's place. If one were actually to ask this tree and receive an answer, it might offer an entirely different story than the one we're about to tell here, but let's give it a go anyway. This beautiful creature is an ancient bristlecone pine tree. In fact, it's my favorite one in the world. This tree is one of the elders. Modern human scientists estimate the age of this one to be at least 3,700 Earth cycles. This tree's lived its entire life, thousands of years, standing here at this edge of this mountaintop on the White Mountains, overlooking miles and miles and miles. This colony is only one of 3 total of ancient bristlecones anywhere in the world, the other 2 being in Nevada and Colorado. If you were this tree, you would go through endless cycles of light and dark, cold and then very cold as winter comes, day in and day out. There's snow, then it melts. The mountains remain relatively the same, though, their bodies being more ancient than the trees. Your community is scattered around. Here's your nearest sibling. Just imagine, continue to imagine what it must have been like to have been a tiny baby bristlecone tree at the very beginning of your life. You would have started from a seed, dropped from a cone from a parent tree nearby who may or may not still be around. The cone dropped, your seed fell out, the water came, probably as hail. Eventually, it all melted. When it warmed somewhat in the spring, your seed knew what to do, and so you sprouted. Your tiny little roots would grow into this rocky, barren soil, even though it's hard to make soil up here. It's too cold for most things to grow, so there's not a lot of organic material. There's not a lot of warmth. But somehow your tiny roots know how to extract what they need from this dry, rocky, impoverished soil. Lower down the mountain, the other trees outgrow you and outpace you and take over everything, but up here they don't know what to do. They can't live. It's just you and your family, stretched over the mountaintops in the White Mountains. Slowly, slowly, your baby little roots grow downwards into the rocky soil, anchoring you, connecting you to the earth. Deeper and deeper. The higher you grew, the more anchoring they needed to hold you, and they came through. When you were still very little and you first grew from these rocks, the people around here were very different from many who are around today. People are strange creatures. They're very hot and very fast. They die quickly. But not you. The word Inyo, denoting this mountain range or the one next door to it, is a Paiute word meaning dwelling of great spirit. And everybody and everything can feel that up here in these mountains. The earlier people who would come around more frequently back then, they were more gentle. They did not roar around with great machines that belch fumes into the air. They did not cut down your friends or use machines to move massive amounts of earth. More recently, though, in the last few hundred Earth cycles, the more gentle people stopped coming around as much as they used to. Then more aggressive people came. Some of your siblings were cut down to make cabins and other things. Some of your friends were cut down to make mines. Terrible machines that tore gaping holes into the earth herself. The air and the temperature started to change. Nobody cut you down. You keep growing. Over the years, you keep growing larger, slowly, very slowly. Your position on this mountaintop affords you an unparalleled viewpoint. You can see down into the valley, across to faraway mountains. But it also means that you take a lot of wind, more than your friends who are just meters away from you, more protected by the curve of the mountains and the valleys. Your wood knows what to do, though. Slowly, slowly, it loses its flexible softness and compacts. Guided by the winds, your trusty wood twists into streaks and whirls. Your wood emits this resin. It becomes very, very tough. Your needles keep on drawing in the sunlight when it's available. Your body knows how to make energy with this. You store food and you grow new branches. You keep going, stretching and twisting towards the sky. The climate is harsh. Parts of you die off, but for you this is okay. The rest of you just keeps on living. About 50 or 60 Earth cycles ago, the rougher people started coming more often. One day, one of these two-legged critters brings a special saw. He cuts into the heart of one of your friends. But trees send signals to each other through chemicals, through rhizomes in the ground. You can feel the agony of the coring process going into your friend. Now there's a hole right in the center of your friend's trunk, leaving them more vulnerable to pests and diseases getting in. The man takes away this chunk of your friend to count the rings and see how old it is. He didn't ask permission to take away these chunks. Most of your friends manage to push a bunch of resin into the wounds created by this man. They heal. Other men name your community after him. But then, one day in the Earth cycle they called 1964, one of the oldest trees of all, called Prometheus, is cut down entirely. He was 4,862 years old, maybe even 5,000. The entire community weeps silently. You keep growing. Today, your branches still stretch out towards the edge of the hillside. The earth cycles aren't quite as stable as they used to be. This might bring more pests or diseases that you're not prepared for, or perhaps other types of trees might begin to compete with you more than they can now. Also, as you age, the winds are starting to take their toll. Your branches are a bit more scraggly, more sparse. This is happening to you a little more than the others around you who are protected by the valleys or who might be younger. But there's nothing to fear about that. That's what characterizes a bristlecone pine. You're becoming more fully yourself. You're becoming an elder. Your gnarls are glorious and you're completely unique, unlike any other, either here on this mountain or anywhere else in the world. Meanwhile, your story is not over. The ending is still being written. What will happen next? William James, one of the founders of modern psychology and the philosophy of pragmatism, would say that if you can't feel it, it's not true, it's not your truth. I'll invite you to notice how you feel now after watching that story. Does the vitality of the living world feel a little more true than it did? Or are there any elements of the story that speak to you? And if not, are we able to hold that such experiences may be true for others? And with that awareness, how would that change our own actions? As always, thank you for watching Somatic Wise. Thank you for watching Somatic Wise. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, because that will help YouTube show this to more people. Till next time, take care.